Welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show, and Wednesdays are for AJ's, and it's the time. We're going to the aviary. There you go. Why are we stopping, Schlegel?
No, because that was more Hawk-esque. It's a higher pitch. It's a morning dove call. It's the only thing I know. It's like sign language, right? Like I love you. Like that's all I got, right? I know that this was A, but the morning dove call is all I got. So the high pitch reminds me of AJ. That's why I just stopped there.
Absolutely. I guess there's a lot of things.
Checks out.
Yep. It does. It all checks out. So you were talking. All you wanted was a Bob Ross painting.
Listen, man. Listen. I got this guy dog behind me. This is a funny story. Thomas Kincaid, right here, room right behind me. How did I get a Thomas Kincaid? Well, back in the day, we used to sell our Super Bowl tickets, right? You used to get your Super Bowl tickets. Boom.
So that's against the rules. No one sold their Super Bowl tickets.
That was a long time ago. They changed the rules if you can't do that. This was like 30 years ago. Anyways, I got to get off my AirPods. All right. So anyways, that being said, sorry, microphone. Boom. Mac there. Now we're popping. So yeah.
Now you're muted.
I love you.
Okay.
I'm going to give you that money. Proof David Copperfield. There's $2,500. You do what you want with it. I'm going to take $2,500 of it, and I'm going to go buy me a hog dog named Buddy, like the best. So we go to this place somewhere in Louisiana, Texas border somewhere, and they had this painting. I was like, Steph, buy this painting. She didn't want to buy the dadgum painting, but I'm like, listen, man, you got $2,500, burn a hole in your pocket. Buy this dadgum paint. Like, that's the dream. My dream, probably not hers, but guess what? Charge it to win it. So we bought it. Guess what? Stands the test of time. It's right there. Looks great above the mantle. The hog dog Buddy, well, took him out hunting one time, never saw him again. But hey, charge it to winning, great life lesson.
Are you telling me that painting cost $2,500, Schlegel? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, that was like a long time ago.
I get it.
Now,
at a flea market, where'd you get it? Like from where?
No, it's authenticated. Like it has one of those.
Yeah, we know somebody painted it. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But who?
No, man, Thomas Kincaid, the guy. Like it's Herbie Hancock's right on the Doomajig.
It is beautiful. Beautiful painting.
What
is that, like 4 inches by 6? What is that?
No. Jesus. No, it is a cottage. Look at this guy. It's a cottage. And it's like on this creek, and it's a log cabin.
Yep.
It's like there's some turkey down there, got a little kayak, got a duck. Got a little campfire with some stove on there. That's what it's about. That's what it's all about.
Too good.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Schlegel, do you feel a connection to Bob Ross because he was in the Air Force for 20 years?
Dadgummit, man. I don't know. You know what I love about Bob Ross? When he was out there painting, he was just joyful. I appreciate it.
He was drunk, Schlegel. He was an alcoholic.
No.
Well,
yeah.
No. Well, yeah, you had a business partner. I watched the documentary on that. It's a long time ago. But his business partner was crazy. So that might drive you to drink a little bit. Hey, Bob, keep knocking those out. Got Bob Ross bobbleheads, Bob Ross mitts. Matter of fact, side nugget, AJ, you gave us a thing for one of your parties that you had. And in there was one of your favorite cigars. I still got the glasses. I should have been like, hey, you got any more of those glasses? Because they're that really nice thick glass and it has like the ridges on it for your hands. Like a great
it's ribbed for your pleasure, Schlegel.
Yeah.
It was so good. And in that box, folks, was a box of Bob Ross mints.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, they sell those at some random, at the checkout at some random stores, like Walgreens, probably. I don't know, all these weird spots you can pick them up. Yeah, they're pretty good. Bob Ross lives on. I think his family is trying to take do everything they can and continue the money to coming in.
AJ, you ever come across the Bob Ross painting? I know that's something that you were looking for a long time.
I've always looked for Bob Ross paintings, and actually, I have one that I think might be a real Bob Ross in our basement that I got. Like it's a secondhand gift, and I'm still trying to authenticate it, but I think it's actually real. It looks kind of like that Thomas Kincaid behind Schlegel.
Wait, what do you mean a secondhand gift? Did someone re-gift it to you, or how?
I think it may have been re-gifted to me, which I actually am completely fine with. If that's the case, I just need to make sure of this before I let anybody know or I figure it out. But I'm pretty sure it's actually real. I think I was re-gifted to somebody else, which it'd be crazy. Why would you ever re-gift something like that?
No, Bob Ross. Like that was the one thing. That was the one thing that I always wanted. Like when you got drafted, people were like, what did you want? What was the first thing you bought?
Yeah.
I told my agent, I go, find me a Bob Ross painting. I thought maybe a couple $1,000s. He's like, dude, these things are crazy expensive. You can't find them anywhere. I think they're all at the Louvre. You could not find a Bob Ross painting this side of the continent. Like they're all bought up. He painted like one an episode, and you would think that there was a ton out there, but there's really not.
No, he still lives. He died like in the early 90s, didn't he? And he's still
95.
And kids still like my kids were Bob Ross for Halloween a couple years ago. So the fact that you have that staying power, like he's doing something right. I don't know how.
Happy clouds, man. Hey, you guys ever think about what you would do back in 2005 with the NIL money that we would have had? Like, I see these guys that are doing great things, and like you go in the parking lots of all these different colleges, not just Ohio State, man. Guys are driving like Dodge TRX, like souped up trucks. I wouldn't have had a truck. Like I know what I'd have done. I'd have taken that money. I'd have taken that money. I still drove that single cab Chevy pickup truck all the time because it was fantastic. But I would have bought so many firearms and bows, and I'm like, Steph, guess what? These things don't depreciate. We just got to get a bigger safe. You know, I'm investing in us by having all these fine weapons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that, or you could maybe buy like 5 or 6 5 or 6 dogs that are, you know, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 a piece, and then take them out hunting one time and never to be seen again. You never know.
Oh my gosh. Man.
Okay, so we know that Schlegel would waste his money, you know, like pure white trash. What would you be buying now in college? More of the maroon quarter zips, or where do you think you'd go with that?
Yeah, I probably would have had a field day over at Walmart or Kohl's by campus, getting some new clothes. But I have thought about that. Like, I'm not a big car guy. I would like to have a nice like truck, I guess. But I enjoyed the two-door old Tahoe.
Dude, you had that Tahoe, guys, black, and it had the tan interior.
Yeah,
and it was
old school leather
tinted.
seats. Yeah, the old school leather seats that are very comfortable. It had like 340,000 miles on. I drove that thing till the end. But I would probably, the one thing I would definitely have done, I would have rented like a sweet place. Like I wouldn't want to be super far. You know, Schlegel lived 45 minutes from campus. I wouldn't want to do that, but I'd want to find like a house for rent somewhat close to campus with like a pool and a hot tub. That's what I think that would be living the life. If you had like just to have a bathroom in your room in college would be awesome. That'd have been amazing.
Wait, you mean one bathroom for 3 dudes and
for giant guys that are winning awards playing center in college football, Nick Mangold, and you know, possible Pro Football Hall of Famer. Yeah, sharing a tiny bathroom with him and Johnny.
It was tiny.
And the fact
it was tiny.
It was the only bathroom in the whole house. So you had to walk upstairs from the living room to go to the bathroom.
Man, I never caught anybody, but I cannot imagine how much pee went in that sink in that kitchen.
What are you talking about? That's what the back window was for.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell people, but I don't trust people. It gets cold. People, you know, they stay inside.
Hey, as long as you go in there afterward, and just spray some Windex on it, you'll be fine. And rinse it out. You're okay.
There's no garbage disposal or anything. Probably jamming food down the drain. Oh yeah, it's a bad deal.
Oh, it's so great. That place. I mean, when was the last time you were over on 180 West Norwich, Age?
It wasn't that long ago. A couple months ago, I drove by just to check it out. Obviously, a lot of things around it look different, but the house looks pretty much the same. I haven't seen inside of what it was, but yeah, I mean, we had a giant couch that I'd come back in between classes and Bob would be taking his naps right there, and the couch that we actually took out of the dumpster close to there, I believe. So yeah, I think we flipped the cushions, but Bob would be sleeping Bob's sleeping face down right in that couch right inside the door. I remember like it was yesterday, Bob. Yeah.
Hey, you know, I mean, it was that you had the recliners in the corner. First of all, that couch, I've always felt like I had pretty good hip mobility. And I think part of it, AJ, was that couch because it sat literally about a foot off the ground. So, I mean, you had to do that deep squat to really get out of there. And if you'd had too much to drink, man, you had to really focus in on your balance so you could lean forward and ride out. Schlegel had to slide out to a knee because his hips were so stiff.
I was like, oh, my gosh, let me get up here.
That's real. You couldn't – anyone over the age of like 40 that sat on that couch was probably not getting back up.
Do you still talk to your parents? Like, because they'd have the little parties after the game. They would be over their tailgating and stuff. I mean, somehow you parked 18 cars in your backyard, which was probably about 10 yards by 5 yards, and everybody would hang out there post game. I mean, your parents, they ever still reminisce and like Marty Party and some of the folks that were there?
Yeah, I mean, I got lucky. I was just walking around one night looking for places to rent my freshman year when we were still in the dorm, and I saw that that house was vacant, and I somehow got the number of whoever owned it and was able to move in shortly after. But I didn't realize at the time, like, that was a huge part of my college experience, was being in that house, because how awesome is it that after games, all of a sudden I greet my parents, right outside the locker room, everything, and we just walk across the parking lot, past the Thirsty Scholar, past the gas station, boom, here we go, and we're at my house. My parents would park there before the games. Like, it was like they were back in college again too, and had all their friends up, and you would, Bob, you guys would show up, and we have that awesome porch, and that was like the general meeting spot whenever we were doing anything. So I'm thankful when I think back, like, I got very lucky making that decision my freshman year. I had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah, and you had that little tiny driveway too with like stones on it. I definitely bumped in that.
I hit it the very first time. The very first time I pulled in, I blasted the side concrete, and I think I probably did it, maybe 100 more times actually.
It was pretty rough. Well, one of the other things that happened in college age is played up at Northwestern twice. And 2002, pretty tight game. I was actually talking to Maurice about it yesterday. Probably one of his least impressive games as a Buckeye. I think he fumbled 3 times. Not one of his, but ended up winning, I think, that thing 27-16 or something like that. 2004, I mean, the three of us hold the honor for the first loss to Northwestern in like 33 years. And then they haven't lost to them since then. So it's the only loss in about the last 50 some odd years. What are your fond memories of that game?
Yeah, not too many fond memories at all. I definitely remember as soon as they won, like, everyone, like, it was like the Super Bowl, basically. Everyone's out there and they're cheering. I was just so thinking, like, this is not real. Like, how did this happen? And then I ended up, Noah Herron, who played tailback for them, I played with Noah in Green Bay, and he has like a picture of everybody. Like, he has a picture at his house of everyone celebrating and everything. And I'm like, all right, I'm glad that you guys got so much joy out of beating us that night, Noah. I guess it was such a big win, and he's a good dude, so I understood. But man, it's terrible. It was not fun to be a part of that game, but I'm not too worried about the guys this year. I think they're focused. They know what's going on, and they know what's out in front of them.
You ever play in like a Wrigley Field or anything like that when you were in the league? Like sometimes Miami, right back in the day, Oakland had it, right, where they had the infield, but they didn't even turf it. It was just like dirt.
I did my 10th year, my 10th season. I was in Cincinnati, and we went out to Oakland, I believe, the first game of the year, and we played on the dirt and like, the old school stadium. And we have half the guys. I think if you're out there and you weren't dressing, you couldn't get dressed inside the locker room. There wasn't enough room, all that stuff. But I do remember them being worried about the transition from the dirt to the grass and all that. And I wanted to be out there, and I wanted to experience it at least once, and I got to. And luckily, it wasn't as big a deal as I thought. Like, I thought it'd be all shifty, it'd be weird, and you would slip and everything. But it was pretty nice, and the grass actually was super nice outside of the baseball field when you were playing. So I know we did win that game, so it wasn't terrible.
The thing is, I try to explain that to people. It's like, oh, they play baseball, and I go, "Did you have baseball cleats on that dig in?" It's
metal
like
spikes. Yeah,
it's like playing on grass, and then you're not looking at the ground. You're looking at the guys you're covering and where you're going. And then all of a sudden you're like on concrete, like, because you don't dig in at all. So as a defensive player, it's crazy difficult to be able to do that and like make open field tackles. And they run that, the jerk routes in between. I know you're a big fan of those, AJ, but they try to jerk you off back and forth in the middle there. And you're trying to like shuffle through the turf, or on the dirt, not fall down. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was something you had to think about. No question. I know the week leading up to it, there's no real way to practice that, but we definitely talked about it, and everyone tried to figure out what was the right cleats to wear and everything. But yeah, you can't be wearing the thin baseball spikes digging into people. That'd be fun to watch though, a game if everyone did wear baseball spikes.
Hey, go ahead, Bob.
Well, I mean, so that was your one baseball experience. I mean, it was terrible. This is gonna be a little different up in Wrigley, because it's gonna be all grass, but they're like sodding it down. I can't imagine the quality of the sod age is going to be all that good. So you're going to have your own issues with everything right there as you're trying to pull it, like trying to cut back and forth, and hopefully that thing's not chunking out and guys aren't blowing groins.
Oh, I know. That's the thing. Like, it will be cool to see the game in Wrigley. I've watched in the past, and they do it. Like, it will be fun, I think, for the guys to be part of it. But you're right. That's a big situation. Like, how does it hold up? I guess what happens with the weather, and anytime you're trying to, jam grass in there and it didn't have a chance to get rooted and get down there, you could have like a pretty sloppy day. It reminds me sometimes when they play over you know, when the NFL plays
London.
overseas, the London games always seem to be like bogged down and like chunking up, and just the footing is always weird.
Well, and the other piece of this, because we played there in college, and then you played there probably a number of times when you were in Green Bay before the Lions or before the Vikings got their new stadium, how far the locker room is away. And Ryan said they're going to stay in the bullpen, because I told him, I go, I bet the locker room's probably a solid 250 yards away, and you don't have much time to get there. So they're going to actually stay in the bullpen, because it's the same thing it was in Minnesota. It was so far away up in the Metrodome.
Yeah, the Metrodome was, I do remember we were like, they'd say, hey, when you go out for warm-ups, just plan on being out there. Don't be going back and forth, because you're so far below the field. I mean, I don't know how many steps it is, but it's a haul to get up to the field, the old school Minnesota place. But it's all part of it. And there's something about those old school stadiums, though, makes it fun.
Yeah, it's something, man. Well, go ahead, Schlegel. We got to get him out of here.
You gotta let him go. Okay, to get him out of here, man. Here we go. Go ahead, Bob. Do it.
Go ahead. Make your noises. Make your noises. Make you all right. Hey, we appreciate the time, sir. Go have fun with McAfee, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you.
He's the best. Aaron James Hawk, official AJ Hawk. Check him out. That's a nice little trip down memory lane. Little Bob Ross. Call him back. See if you do the call, if he'll reappear. He might.
Bro, he's out there all the time. I see him, man. He's like one of those morphing I don't know what they are.
Shapeshifters?
He does that. Yeah, he's a shapeshifter. And like he doesn't tell us, but like I see him down here at the farm flying around all the time. Just checking out things.
Kind of like Batman, except he would turn into a hawk and just soar around at night, like Teen Wolf kind of. Like maybe that's what I have to ask him next time, you know, if that's a real thing. Like
the real question would be, how does he have like his hawk costume on underneath it when he shapeshift, or does he shapeshift out and he's just naked? And he has to have multiple of those bags of his hawk gear like that he buy. Maybe that's why he's buying so many things from Walmart that are the same thing, because he can just have them sporadically at different locations. So he knows when he shapeshifts back, boom, there I go, and it's really inexpensive.
Absolutely. Well, so that's neither here nor there. But speaking of buying things, parents and athletes, protect what matters most. If you want to buy something, this is it. The X-Sport mouth guards, they're trusted by professional athletes, designed by NHL team dentists. They're scientifically proven to help protect those high-impact hits from both your teeth and your brain. X-Sport guards feature 3 layers of custom protection, patented carbon fiber that's 3D printed right to your grill. It means better protection, better performance, max comfort, clear communication, focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Visit xsportguards.com/Bobby. Save 15% on your order. X-Sport, protect what matters most. More Buckeye Breakdown coming up next.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like... I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages, because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer. All right, Schlegel, did you watch the release of the college football playoff rankings last night?
Absolutely not. Why?
Not at all? Are you aware that happened?
100% I'm aware of it. And you know, here's what got me. You know, I think it was way more dramatic at this time of year when you were looking only at 4 teams. The 12 teams that are there now, it's not as dramatic, though the games, I think, are more meaningful every week, because now you have more people trying to get in and leverage and jockey jockey for the positions within it, though we all know that none of it really matters until the championship games, which I think down the road are going to be a foregone conclusion. So I don't necessarily need to watch it. I just saw what the bracket is. And I'm like, don't even matter.
Well, there are parts that do matter. I guess maybe some do, some don't. Start looking at where teams are kind of ranked, who teams have beaten, because they utilize those as kind of anchor points. People ask why Indiana and Penn State were where they were, and like, well, they had two nice wins over Washington and Michigan. Like, do you consider Washington and Michigan good teams this year?
I mean, no. Right? Like, if you go look at both of those, and everybody was talking about Ohio State's strength of schedule, imagine if Michigan was actually better this year, and then you're playing, you know, the end of the year, you got Oregon that's now number one, you got Penn State, you have Indiana. If somebody else was in that boat that actually raised that up, you would by far have the hardest schedule in college football, if they don't already. And then you go look at like what Texas has done. I mean, the one team that you played that has been ranked now, Texas A&M, they played them the last game of the season, but like they haven't beaten anybody either, right? So, boom.
It's just interesting to me to see that, because you start breaking down and looking at this, and they use these references. It's always like a circular reference when they talk about good wins, bad losses. Like Ohio State's got one loss. Okay, they've got one great win. They probably have the best win on the board outside of Oregon, who is undefeated and beat Ohio State. And so Ohio State lost to Oregon by a point, and then they beat the number 4 team. So they kind of have that best win and almost best loss outside of, I'm trying to think who beat Texas, Georgia, when Georgia beat up Texas. But as you look at this and try to parcel it out, I think what you're saying is like Indiana's getting in. I mean, I don't think there's a way. Yeah, they got one loss.
Potentially, right? Yeah,
potentially one loss. They're not going to lose to Purdue. Let's say they lose for Ohio State. Whether that's by 2 points or 25 points, I don't think it's really going to matter, because they may drop them to 8 or to 9, 10, 11, 12. But I don't think there is a scenario where Indiana falls out of the top 12. I think that if they lose and they lose bad, they may not get a home game. But I think for both them and Penn State, assuming they win out, I think that they're going to try to get them home game. Well, Penn State wins out and Indiana loses a close one or a competitive game to Ohio State. So I think they want to give them home games. At least that's kind of what I'm feeling as I'm watching it right now.
Well, I go back to, I think Joe Klatt said the perception and how you win and how you lose does matter. If Indiana gets boat raced, you got BYU, they're 8-1. So you got SMU, you got Miami. They're going to look at who they played, all these different teams, Colorado potentially, you know, the SMU. Like, here's the deal. You get boat raced by Ohio State potentially. Like, do you then drop out because now SMU's moved up, right? Where is that a close championship game where it's like good on good? How far do they fall? BYU, Colorado, now they'll have 2 losses. You're already good with that one. You don't know, right? You don't know. Boise State's sitting right there. What are they? Damn it! I just lost my mind. They're only losses by 3 points to Oregon.
Yeah. So they've got one of the better losses. Like, they've got a great loss too to the number 1 team. So they're right there.
What about Washington State? Even they got 1 loss. What they run the table? Where did they get to go?
Who did Washington State lose to?
Didn't they lose to Boise?
That's correct, sir. Look at you. Look at you with your college football knowledge.
Get them. Look at them.
Why don't we throw up that Joel Klatt quote? We'll dive into that a little bit, because I think that
clack.
click, clack. I think that does matter. And Joel was kind of spot on about this. And this was even from last week, because I think people anticipated them beating Michigan. And so we could throw that up there, Pat, it'd be great. So I think everybody anticipated they'd beat Michigan. Now, it was a little closer than maybe people thought, but they still played really well and were able to close out a game. They had a lead. Michigan came back in the 3rd quarter, but it matters ultimately how they lose and what that, like, it's the game feel. Like, what that game ultimately looks like is what's going to matter. So as you look at this, and if they don't beat Ohio State, it matters how they lose. Like, you couldn't get any simpler than that, because you're going to have 2 teams that are ranked in the top 5. If it's a close game, they get a home game. If they get blown out, I think they're on the road. I think it's almost as simple as that, Schlegs.
Yeah. And I mean, I go back to even the 2014 season We had to beat. Was it Melton who was their running back from Wisconsin?
Oh, it was my
not
gosh.
Melton. I'm thinking of Big Mitch, but it started with an M. I know that, and he was just running all over people, and we beat him 59-0. Like how? It wasn't just winning the game. Winning the game was not going to get us to jump Baylor and TCU that
Melvin
year.
Gordon. You're close.
Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, all the same. But that being said, how we won that game so decisively, 59-0, neutral field, Big Ten championship game. People are just like, you got to put them in. Like we jumped 2 teams. And so how Indiana loses, and it's unfortunate. If this was any other brand, you would say, it doesn't really matter. The brand would carry the weight. But when you are an IU or you are a Boise or you are a Washington State or an SMU, BYU, right? It does matter because I think there's an underlying bias that they want the biggest fan bases to accumulate the most money. So you got to be head and shoulders above or at least be on par with those that you lose to have a case, especially when you look at the schedule that IU has had this season. And they've done exactly what they needed to do versus those teams. But against Michigan State, was it Michigan State? It was 31-something. And then against Michigan, it was 20-15. Like you thought they would, and they were double-digit favorites in that Michigan game. They didn't. Michigan sowed some things in some weak areas, some chinks in the armor of IU in that second half, though they were up 17-3 at half. So I say all that to this is it does matter how these non-blue blood teams lose to stay relevant, looking at their body of work. And,
right.
and the teams of Texas, they'll get a pass. They'll get the pass.
Yeah, we're going to flash that bracket up now and look at where Ohio State is and where their path would be and what it will look like, some of these matchups. I think they're pretty intriguing. I think they'll be pretty exciting. That's coming up next here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Bobby Carpenter. I want to give a huge thank you and a shout out to Affinity Whole Health, the leaders in the testosterone replacement industry. I've been on a testosterone replacement program for a few years right now, and I've got to tell you, it's been an absolute game changer. Affinity Whole Health has allowed me to be the best version of myself, both mentally and physically. I loved how easy it was to get started. I booked my free consultation, met with my prescriber, checked my numbers, and Affinity Whole Health designed a program that was customized to fit my needs. So I'm telling you guys, if you have low energy, you want to get rid of that spare tire around the waist or take it to the next level in the bedroom, Affinity Whole Health is the place to get started. So don't wait any longer. 5 minutes of your time, book your free consultation. You're going to love the way you feel. All right, welcome back in to the Bobby Carpenter Show, and want to throw up there our 12-week team projection, the bracket projection for what we ultimately have and what we're going to take a look at here, and the 12-team playoff. We can toss that up here. So it's interesting. Boise was at 13, and they're sitting at 12 because the top 12 teams get in. Georgia was sitting at 12, but they get bounced out of there. As you sit there and look, the buys are going to be Oregon at 1, Texas at 2, BYU at 3, Miami at 4. BYU is 6. Miami, I believe, was 9, but they bounce up and get there. And so then you have playing games. So Boise, Ohio State strikes. How does that strike you? Because that's one that people have kind of looked at a decent amount.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very large dub. I mean, that's a very large dub. Again, it'd be a great environment. Hopefully not at noon.
Well, here's the thing. The first round, there's going to be one game Friday night. There's going to be 3 games on Saturday. So you'll have noon, afternoon, evening. ESPN will have 2 of them. TNT is going to have the 2 ones earlier. I'm guessing they'll probably want to put Ohio State in one of the primetime windows. Probably not Friday, either Saturday, the second game, or the third game.
And I mean, honestly, if you look at their side of the bracket, again, this is all saying that they're not going to be the Big Ten champs. But when you look at this side of the bracket, I mean, Ohio State versus Boise, Ohio State, in a bowl game in the Fiesta Bowl versus a Miami, a rematch potentially, of the 2002 national championship game, that would generate a lot of hype, but they're very one-dimensional. You're like, cool. My biggest thing about this entire playoff, the more that I've thought about it, the disadvantage is in this scenario, Ohio State wins, they go to the Big Ten championship game, they lose. Do they stay at 5? They have an additional loss versus other teams, but it should not hurt them in where they're ranked, in my honest opinion, because of that one loss, because you're playing an extra week of ball. But if you think about it, all the AYO teams, the Penn States, the Indianas, right, of the world in that, they got to bye the first week. So now they get a bye, they get to recoup. Then they're going to go, yeah, granted, probably on the road, not in IU's case, not in Penn State's case, but they get a bye week, right? The winner of the game, they get a bye week. The loser of that game gets no bye week and an additional loss versus a ranked opponent. So that's where I don't like this.
What's interesting, Schlegel, as you mentioned, the back and forth. You've got Miami at 4 now, BYU at 3. And I think Miami's a heavily flawed team. I think they've got some issues. Ohio State's defense, I think, could handle them, I wouldn't say easily, but they'll be able to get pressure, keep Cam Moore in the pocket, the defensive backs.
Yes.
Like Miami doesn't have any elite wide receivers, like not high caliber NFL guys. So I think that they would be fine. But the difference is, like, would you want to play Miami or would you want to play BYU? It seems like BYU would still be the easier test there, but it's pretty interesting as we look at it. And obviously, Ohio State's going to get a chance to play Indiana. If they win that, Michigan, and maybe even have that 1 seed. I don't know, Schlegel, I really want to see a playoff game at some point in the shoe. Maybe not this year, but those home environments, man, would be tremendous. And, if Marcus at Notre Dame could flip that and somehow get a home game up in South Bend, I think that'd be tremendous because you'd watch a lot of these SEC schools have to travel north, and it's December 20th and 21st, and to see what that weather would look like would be pretty remarkable. All right, there's another tweet that I want to throw up here from Pete Futek. It's pretty interesting. So he's he's a guy that I've talked to. I've been on different shows with him before, but it says from the Department of Just saying, Boise State is 13, gave Washington State, who's 18, its only loss. Only loss is 3-point loss on the road to number 1 Oregon. Texas, no top 25 wins, lost by 15 at home to Georgia. And then you look at Penn State, no wins over top 25 teams, and they lost to number 2 Ohio State. And so here's the reality of this. I keep telling people, they try to look at all these stats, they try to look at all these metrics. People, the committee, they look at this and they're like, okay, when we're talking about Boise, we'll reference their good stuff. We're talking about Penn State, we're going to talk about, hey, their wins over Washington, in Indiana, their wins over Michigan. Like, if we need to say, hey, their only losses to Ohio State, so we'll anchor them that way. But I keep telling people, and I'll say this every week, the committee watches the games. They try to determine who's better. And then they try to find stats and find the matchups and find who lost to whom and what that game looked like and all those things just to simply back it up. Because that's what they're doing. Because you can't go the transitive property like, well, this is a great loss, this is a great win. They're just trying to pick the I guess, 7 best and then 5 conference winners. I guess that's what they've been tasked to do.
Well, and I like the fact that he brings these up because conferences are not created equal. Teams are not created equal. Every year is going to be different. I think we rely too much upon what we perceive people to be. Like, if you look at Indiana and where they are right now, like, it's absolutely asinine that the money was like, I don't know, it was some ridiculous to where if you said they were going to make the college football playoffs, like, you get paid. You know what I mean? So, Again, how does that turnaround look, right? Beginning of the year, Florida State ranked like they're terrible. Because you just don't know how the portal's going to work. You know how coaching is. You know how the mesh of the players is going to work. Like, it's just different every single year. It's why, like, you got to take all the brands, all this aside and say, man, like, what is it that they do? Can this carry over? And if you look at that, like the ebbs and flows of the SEC, man, week in and week out, that's why LSU's taking a tumble, because they just looked absolutely terrible versus Alabama. Though that was a game that was a must-win. Let's say they didn't lose the USC game. again, hyperbole, like, whatever. But it's like, let's say they don't lose that, but then they come in and they lose to Alabama the way that they did. Alabama, yeah, they beat Georgia. They get beat by Vandy. They get beat by Tennessee, but they absolutely dominated LSU, who was like on the come up. So I say all this to say this.
Say it all to say it all, Schlegs.
College football's fun. That's why even with this expanded landscape, I'm not necessarily so worried about the bracket as much as I am. Where is it all? I'll get worried about that once we get to the championship game, because for a team like Ohio State, like, we got to win this game, not only to win the Big Ten, but to get that bye. Because if not, now we're actually behind the 8 ball, because we just literally are playing an extra game that nobody else had to play.
Well, not nobody, but a lot of teams. I mean, there's
four, but 2 of those aren't even making it.
There's only 2, because the SEC, the ACC and Big 12 aren't getting their second teams.
They're getting 1, exactly.
So it's really whoever
2.
I said the worst place you can be is second place in the SEC and in the Big 10, because
Facts.
you're going to have to play. You do get a week off in between, but it's not like the same level that everybody else does, because you're playing conference championship week and then you're playing in the first round ultimately as well too. All right, we'll put a pin in that. Schlegs, we got some headlines coming up. There's some big headlines from across Ohio State in the college football realm. We will dive into those next here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
Get the most out of work, life, and all your outdoor adventures with top-selling upgrades for your truck. Guaranteed fit, free shipping, easy install, expert support, and thousands of dealers just a click away. Bring your truck to life. Real Truck. Upgrade today and save between $50 and $400 on select Real Truck products. Visit realtruck.com/specials.
All right, now we're into headlines brought to you by our friends over at Affinity Whole Health. Affinity Whole Health, they offer personalized plans to help you feel better, whether it's weight loss, low energy, muscle loss, poor sleep. Affinity, they can help you with all of its legs. Affinity Whole Health provides expert guidance to help support you safely reach your health goals. They've got great TRT and hormone replacement programs. They've got semaglutide for weight loss. Whatever your goals are, they can pair them together. So whether you're dudette, whatever stage of life, Affinity Whole Health can be there for you. Now, here's what you do. You go to affinityWholeHealth.com and you start on your journey. You set up your free consultation. You go in and visit them. They take some labs. They do some scans. They figure out what you're trying to accomplish. Put together something for your Schlegs, and poof, David Copperfield. 2 days later, your stuff is at your door, so you're not going back to the office. It's just that simple. So go check them out at affinityWholeHealth.com.
Semi-glutides as opposed to glutides. Pretty good.
Yeah, you don't want the full glutide. You want the semi. The semi, not semi. It's semi glutide with an A.
It's no, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad. Anyways,
let's throw this up here for our headlines to start off with. Pat, the red zone offense, because I don't think this can be understated enough, or overstated enough, rather. Red zone scoring offense and red zone scoring defense, in particular, touchdown scoring offense and defense in the red zone. Nothing is great for a defense. Field goals are good. Touchdowns are no bueno. Offense, you want TDs, you'll take a field goal. Hopefully, you're always getting points. If you look at Ohio State, their red zone offense is second in the nation, 97.1%.
That's amazing.
Red zone defense is second in the country with about 58%. And so, Schlegs, I always like to screw down into those numbers a little more. Ohio State has allowed opponents into the red zone through 9 games, 19 times. They've given up 3 touchdowns rushing, 3 passing touchdowns. That comes to a grand total of 6 of 19. So that is like 30%, 29% touchdown scoring percentage in the red zone, which is even better. The NCAA, they don't break that out, but that to me is probably the most important metric. And I don't know anybody that's doing a better job than them.
If you think about it, 4 of those came in the Oregon game, Bob. You know,
Yeah.
So that's 1 of the rushing and 3 of the passing, right? I think all the 3 of the passing came in that Oregon game, which again goes back to like got to be better in that game. So it's something to hang your hat on, something to resonate. I think 3 years ago we were talking about how terrible our red zone defense was, and we saw the gains. Now again, it's just what people are going to say. You got to do it versus Michigan. Yeah, you got to do it versus Michigan. You also got to do it against the Oregons, the great teams. You saw Penn State; they got held without a touchdown for the first time in 10 years. You know, the offensive coordinator hadn't been held under 300 yards like the entire season. So I say all that to say this. These are great stats. We're right where we want to be offensively and defensively, where it matters most, but we also got to do them in the big games.
Now you look at the offensive side. 34 times they entered the red zone, 16 rushing touchdowns, 14 passing touchdowns. So 30 of 34. They've got 3 field goals in there. 1 time they didn't score, but that is about as good as you're going to get. Like you'll be hard pressed to find a more efficient offense. So if they can keep that up on both sides of the ball, you stay really good on third down. Like this team, I don't really see any flaws. Like if you don't turn it over, you're good on third down, and your red zone scoring is like that on both sides, man, you are going to be a really tough out, because I don't understand how you don't move the ball down the field.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Bob. And then where have we seen, I think, this year, and it goes back to coaching. I think sometimes, for as much as people have gone on Ryan Day or even Chip Kelly, like, guys, let's talk about this. Like, you have a guy in Will Howard. I think he's everything that the Buckeyes needed in the quarterback position as a leader, and just like his personality and his competitiveness. But the guy was a 61% average completion passer when he was at Kansas State. He comes to Ohio State and he's well into the 70s. Like he's in the top 10 in the country. At one point, he was like number 2. So coaching goes a long way. You saw the shakeup in the offensive line. Boom. It was terrible, right? Like, what's going to happen? It was really good. Josh Simmons goes down. You have 2 weeks where you're figuring some things out. Boom. Now they're rolling. That all goes into this because, again, how do you get really good on third down, Bob? You win first and second down. That's how it works. Hey, how do you get really good on defense? You win on first and second down. You win third down there. To your point, as long as you take care of the football and you continue to play this way against elite level competition, man, like, you got a chance, and that's all you want.
Absolutely. Hey, we got some of your comments, your tweets firing at us. We got Tailgate Talk brought to you by Real Truck coming up next.
Get the most out of work, life, and all your outdoor adventures with top-selling upgrades for your truck. Guaranteed fit, free shipping, easy install, expert support, and thousands of dealers just a click away. Bring your truck to life. Real Truck. Upgrade today and save between $50 and $400 on select Real Truck products. Visit realtruck.com/specials.
All right, Schlegs, now we got some Tailgate Talk brought to you by our friends at Real Truck. Go to realtruck.com. There you go.
Real Truck. Look at that, man. 1620 USA. You need this hoodie. I'm going to get you one.
They love the feel. I mean, it's all so high quality, so soft, Schlegs. It's absolutely tremendous. If you go to realtruck.com to soup up your truck, Jeep, Bronco, whatever it is, spend $100 for being a loyal consumer of this program. Use promo code Bobby at the end to get the free hat. So they're going to hook you up this holiday season. Realtruck.com. Spend $100. Promo code Bobby at the end. You're given a free Real Truck hat. So make sure you get to realtruck.com for the interior, exterior, whatever you need for your truck, Jeep, or Bronco. All right, Schlegs, we've got some questions coming at you. Kenny Holland, the first one.
Oh, hey, Kenny.
So do you think there's been a lack of energy at Ohio Stadium this season?
Oh, Bob, I'm going to leave that to you because, Kenny, I like to watch the games at the Hizzy because during commercials break, well, one, I type a bunch of notes. Two, I like to sit there and I like to watch the bigger picture. And three, I like to shoot my bow in between commercials.
Well,
so, Bob, I'll leave this to you.
Yeah, it's a weapons-free zone, Schlegs, on campus. At least now it is, not back when we were there. But I feel like it has been, you know, some of these games you had Akron, Iowa were 3:30, Western Michigan was at night, which doesn't really deserve it. And then the rest have really been noon. Like, it's just, there has been a little bit of juice that's kind of disappeared from there. And it's just been kind of depressing. And hopefully you see the SEC at night, and you see the lasers and all this stuff. Maybe they can get that correct in the future, but that's not happening, obviously, next couple games, and maybe not next year as well. All right, this is coming from Condo Sports. Like, better to play in the Big Ten championship game or not, assuming a loss to Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, guys, my point is this. Here's the deal. Goals of the season. Beat Michigan. Win the Big Ten. Win a natty. So if those are the goals of the season, guess what? Accomplish the mission of the goals of the season.
Yes.
So in this year, the answer is, yeah, we definitely want to play.
Yeah.
We definitely want to play.
You want another crack at Oregon, I feel like.
And guess what? Here's the bad side about that. Here's the bad thing about this, Bob. Because of the way it's set up and all the bull crap, you're going to play them again.
Yeah.
In the semifinal.
So
Because
maybe
that's how it's set up.
Hey, Schlegel, you always say best of three. That's all that really matters. You know, you get a chance to do it. Like, I think that's great. It's what it is. I mean, you can complain about it, but it is what it is. You want to win them all. You want to get a Big Ten trophy. Beat Michigan, go win a national championship. All right, and this one, the last one comes. Who did I have here? From Ross. Where the heck did his tweet go?
Ross Bjork.
I don't think it's. Oh, here we go. Ross Dickerson. He's related to Bruce Dickinson, Schlegs.
I was going to say
who was the manager for Blue Oyster Cult.
General Bob. Eric Dickerson.
Well, maybe him too. What options does Ohio State have against playing every game at noon? It ruins the in-stadium atmosphere and is also much less enjoyable for those watching from home. I hate to tell you this. Maybe that is Ross Bjork, and maybe he's looking for suggestions. I don't think it is. But, Ross, I don't think there's really anything that can be done, unfortunately, right now. Like, that's what the money's for. Money's on the nightstand. Do your job and make sure you take care of business. Go win the games. Now, what can be done, I think, is Ohio State maybe bowing up on the rest of the Big Ten and saying, listen, if we're going to continue to be the featured entree is going to cost a little more. And we're not going to let you guys slide out a sloppy Joe right next to a delicious like tomahawk ribeye and charge the same price for those. In this scenario, Schlegs, Ohio State is the ribeye.
What was that one? It's like, I think it was Teddy Roosevelt, something about carrying a big stick. And like, you're only
excited for carry a big stick.
Yeah. So guess what? The big stick is the brand of Ohio State. Like, that's the big stick, right? The money being generated. And again, we saw the same play with Texas when they said, oh, we're going to start our own network. And you got Notre Dame, they're going to start their own network. Not that we're going to leave the conference, but it's like, hey, boys, let's get in here. Guess what? Hey, pop a monster. All right, let's go on the whiteboard. Hey, Buckeyes.
Okay.
We all can agree. Can agree. Buckeyes, right?
Buckeyes.
We're gonna go where we want to go as far as the time slots. Because why? Buckeyes.
All right. Coming up next, Schlegs' parting thoughts as we wrap up the Bobby Carpenter Show.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like. I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink garage beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage beer, beer flavored beer. How we got a poll that we put out there on Bobby Carpenter's show that we're going to reveal tomorrow about OSU carrying the water. Is it they've been doing it for too long for the Big Ten as far as the media rights deal goes? We'll see what the results say. We've got some of them in there now, and want to get a bigger swath, Schlegs, if you will, of folks weighing in. But before we let you go, have you bagged yourself any deer? Have we seen anything worthy of a good meat missile?
No, not yet. And I haven't been able to really even get out, though. I know right now it's
What do you mean, Schlegs? You're at home. You're not even at work.
Bro, listen, I am at work because there's a lot of stuff. Matter of fact, side nugget here, I'll just say this. We got the Columbus Fury. So they're back this season, second season, and they're training with us at the Armory. And super excited to have them back on board. So we've been doing that. We got UA softball in there all the time. I got a lot of stuff going on at the Armory, Bob. And boom, you're also slinging striking machines all over the place. So I'm super busy. Guess what? At some point, you got to pay the piper. And right now, I'm paying the piper, and I'm working, and I enjoy it, guys. I enjoy maximizing people and serving people. So, poof, David Copperfield.
Well, that's it for this edition of the Bobby Carpenter Show. We'll be back live 12:30 tomorrow on Thursday with our guy Ben Stevens to make you some money this weekend from Sports Grid. Stay locked in. We'll see you tomorrow.